I was a fan of Tim Lilburn. I saw his new book, 2017, 2018, The Larger Conversation, Contemplation in Place. I reviewed it, liked it, mailed my review to Tim, and Tim was grateful to respond. And honestly, ever since then, I've just been very grateful to be at least on the periphery of Tim's um, community of practice, his writing practice, and he's been very generous with inviting me to workshop essays at his house, sharing what he's been working on over the years. And I've been grateful that I actually saw since around that time, 2018, 2019, when we met at your house, Tim with Jan, Ziki, and everyone, and Helen, and I was lucky to see how this book sort of gradually came together since that time. Numinous Seditions, Interiority and Climate Change, and again, a very lovely, timely book, honestly, that has a perspective. I mean, there's so many books about climate change, and I'm about to add another one into the fire. But so few approach it from this perspective of deep feeling and interiority, and just sort of one line from the very beginning of the preface, where there is no antimony between a practice of sadness and an engaged politics at certain times of severe crisis. And I think that says a lot about what the book grapples with. Yeah, but yeah, so Tim is you've already know a little bit about him, but I'll let him speak for himself. But for myself, he's sort of one of the great, I would say, philosophers, poet, Western Canadian philosophers and poets. He, in the kind of tradition of George Grant, he has really grappled with what does it mean to be in the world as if it were home? What does it mean to belong, try to belong somewhere, to try to connect to the places that you live in and inhabit, especially for us folks who are from settler heritage, in this land that is often alien to us, living next to rivers, streams, mountains, that places, stories, place names, stories removed. How do we be in this? And Tim has honestly spent decades grappling with this question in a very profound way. So that's probably all I'll say. And with that, we can pass it right off to Tim. And
okay, just a couple of additional words. My introduction to Tim's work was through this book, Living in the World as If It Were Home. As I mentioned, I think last night, this was one of our required readings in Celeste's 843 course, which you guys have all taken, the embodiment course. And I was just literally blown away by the writing. And two of the themes that I've picked up from Tim's writing, which really speak to me from the contemplative perspective, are his focus on attention, how to attend and to be with. And then the other area of focus that comes out prominently in this book and in all his work is what he calls the lunge of eros. And perhaps Tim, you'll mention that today. That's another profound concept going back to the ancient Greeks. And there's the whole mythology around Eros and the birth of Eros from in the mythology, Peenia and Porus. So it's a very profound mythology around Eros and what that means. So without any further ado, Tim, over to you. The floor is yours. The room is yours.
Thank you, Charles, for inviting me into your class. And thank you, Cary, for initiating this. And good morning, everyone. It's really good to see you. It is good to be with a bunch of contemplatives. This is not my normal experience. I live in the world of writing. I live in the world of poets and people who write philosophical essays. And contemplation doesn't have a large place there. So I feel that I'm among like-minded people. All of us, I'm going to assume, have had a kind of emotional, what I like to think of as an emotional conversion to climate change. Um, mine came a few years ago, sort of late in the game. I was trying to grow a garden, put in a garden at the community gardens at the University of Victoria. And this was in the summer of the heat dome, 2021. And what I was planting and what was coming up in that heat that seemed to last, I don't know, a couple of weeks at most, it simply vanished. Just vanished. It wasn't there anymore. And I I was struck uh, by sadness. I was struck by the power of what had taken away what had begun to grow, and um, and I became convinced. I mean, I knew before, and I think all of us kind of know before, but then we have this emotional experience that this is a new time, a completely new time, and the question that came to my mind was how to be in this time, how to how to how to be, how to place oneself in this time. Um, it occurred to me because of what I had read before and my life before this experience in the community garden, Ubic community garden, that that somehow it is important for me, it's important for us, I would say, to grow a contemplative root to but then how to do this? How to do this? I think in part uh, one begins an inner life, one begins a contemplative route through certain exercises, uh, uh, pedagogical, personal. Uh, so what I want to do this morning is I want to talk about three or four um, exercises that I've been working with over the last, I would say, 2 years. Um, they are, and I'm sure you people are already doing this, they are Statio, the exercise of Statio, Statio. It means standing still. The meditative moment that we took at the beginning of the class, that's Statio, standing still. I also want to talk a little bit about Lectio Divina, which is I mean, it's a form of reading, Lectio reading, a Divina, divine reading. Um, it it's a particular form of taking in a text or taking in what one experiences. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about Lectio, which I'm sure you've already kind of addressed. So you're sort of you've got the picture already. But I want to talk about group Lectio, which is something that is new to me, uh, and I'm finding it delightful and extremely helpful. Um, yeah, group Lectio. I also want to talk, and we may not get to any of this. Actually, we may start our conversations. Feel free to put up your hand and ask a question at any point. Um, I want to talk about small groups of conversation, and by small, I'm talking about 4 or 5, and what can happen in these groups. And I don't know where I am now. I probably fourthly, uh, I would like to talk about um, autochtonicity I'm not sure if this is a word that you are familiar with, but autochtonicity is coming from one's ground, coming from one's place. Um, is this a word that is familiar to people? No?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, excellent. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay. Excellent. Good. Yeah. Um, and I think that is probably it. I wouldn't mind talking if there's time about pansentience, um, a, a kind of consciousness that we know on a daily basis. That's our best friend, consciousness, but that is beyond the human, and how that changes relationships uh, to cliffs, rocks, trees, animals, deer, hummingbirds, etc. Uh, so how does that sound? Are you up for it?
Sounds great, Tim.
But first of all, I want to locate myself. Um, I am now, this is my life essentially. I am now working with or sharing community with groups of writers whose writing has been frozen by this emotional conversion or revelation of climate change, who have been stopped as writers, silenced, um, in a sense. Um, so yeah, and I'm in a group that meets weekly, um, and we talk about these things. And what we have noticed is, um, we noticed a couple of things. One of the chief things we've noticed is a transformation in writing. So we live in new times. We're looking for a new self, a new way of being, and it's pulling new writing out of us. Okay, so Statio first. Statio. The Statio I do involves breath, and it's not quite as long as your Statio, but anyway, this is an important moment. This is a dividing line between two lives and two worlds. Uh, all of us come to classes like this, meetings like this, moments like this from an extroverted, high energy, anxiety filled world. So that's world number one. With Statio, we enter a second world, uh, and we recognize the existence of this second world, and we recognize the possibility of dwelling in this second world. And this is, Augustine calls this world the land of unlikeness. Um, but it's the contemplative world, or we move from one life to another life, like a regular life, to a contemplative life. To give you an example of this, I uh, I have two friends in Saskatoon, and I was in Saskatoon a couple of weeks ago, and I met them when we talked. Uh, uh, Peter Butt and Louise Half, who some of you may know. She was the first Indigenous a Canadian poet laureate, and she occupied that position for 3 years. And I think she's been 2 years out of it. Anyway, these two people, man or wife, have been working with elders for decades. Initially, they worked with the great Cree elder at at Saddle Lake Reserve in Alberta, Joseph P. Cardinal. And now they're working with another elder who I don't know. I knew Joe very well, but I don't know the new elder. Um, and Peter was saying, and Louise was kind of backing him up. This is in fact the truth that these people, the elders, they live in two worlds. World number one, they're driving a school bus, or they're doing dentistry, or they're teaching, or they're or they're hunting. And then the other world is the world of the stories, the world of medicinal plants. It's like, I think of it as that is the contemplative world. The protocols of the fast, the protocols of the lodge, etc. So there are two things operating, and these two lives talk to one another and influence one another. But the second life is the leading life. Um, and I would say, using my language, this is certainly not language that I would bring to Louise and Peter. This is the erotic life. This is the life of desire. Um, as Charles was saying, in the first book, throughout my books, I talk about eros. I mean, yes, physical eros, but there's moral eros, there's existential eros, there's philosophical eros, there's cosmological eros. It's the life of yearning and desiring, and the life of tasting. Uh, so once we pass that line, the line of Statio, that's the world we're in. Okay. Any questions or comments on that, or does that?
Thank you for sharing all of this. It's really exciting to, I don't know, have read some of your book and now be able to speak with you. And I guess I just wanted to take a moment and maybe like acknowledge the land that we're on right now. I don't know a lot of the stories of this land because I live from away. I actually live on the island on Cowichan territory.
Hmm.
But if anyone has a story about, like, I don't know, like Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, or Squamish territory, or something they know about this place, and maybe something you know about Wasanich, now would be a cool time, I think, for us to call that in.
Well, I know that I live on stolen land. Uh,
Ditto.
I I know that I come from a people who founded their nation on massive theft, massive theft.
Mhm.
The sale of Rupert's land to the quote unquote sale of Rupert's land to the Dominion of Canada in 1869. Um, and I feel a kind of an inexpressible shame that this is the case. I have a sense that the state of mind that did that is not expunged from me, or yeah. I think this kind of gets us into the autochtonicity discussion, but I think we can jump into it now. I think it's very important to know where you are, to know where you are. I have a sense, or I think I know a little bit better where I am now, but 10 years ago and before, I knew nothing. And I knew nothing about where I was, which was very strange. This location, the land that I'm on, I don't know it. Um, and then 20 years ago, I changed where I was. I took a job at University of Victoria and moved from Saskatchewan, and I was completely lost. Completely. In fact, I got ill. I was in the hospital. Maybe you shouldn't laugh at that, but yeah, just bereft. About 10 years ago, um, I started taking lessons in Sanchothan from the knowledge keeper, the story keeper, Philip Kevin Paul. And that was an extraordinary gift. Um, so I started to learn Sanchothan, and I can name the trees, I can name the winds, I can name certain internal states. And it's very good to have this. I mean, this in a sense sort of saved my life. Kevin says that my pronunciation is dreadful. Well, and it is, but I use it every day. I use Sanchothan every day. Uh, I don't speak to Sanchothan speakers every day, but I speak to the land where I live in. Uh, Ai squelakun atu maksan atia chechas huecho. That's the first words that I speak, uh, and it's just wishing, uh, wishing Scalacon is it's the Wasanish name for this second life, this interior life. So it's a prayer for good inner feelings, essentially. Um, and then I greet the Khacheli hummingbirds. I greet the Smythe if they're around, deer. Um, this little press that I've started that I was talking to Cary about, it's called Deer Mountain Pages because I live at the base of a mountain called, in its lower reaches, Wamayathan, and that means place of the deer. But even with this sort of locational knowledge, I know I'm ignorant, I'm close to being completely ignorant. And so I say "Tsewang kwanangetewa tango sasen." I say to the I say merciful and teaching land, look at me, sasen, because I am poor. So yeah, no, that's a huge work that I would I think everyone needs to take up, and I think the nation needs to take up. Um, it's a big parcel of unfinished work, in some cases, non-started work. Um, yeah.
Tim, I'll just quickly add to what you're offering here. You have this notion that my students have always liked of placeless drifting. And unless we do this autochthonous work, then we're sort of destined to be, I think you say, bereft, savage to land even, like we don't know. We don't know. I think those are the words you use in the larger conversation, but we don't know how to be in this, like you said. And I'll just point out, since you asked about this land, one of my stories I've been learning again and again since I was a kid. I wake up every morning in East Vancouver, I sleep in the attic. I look out at the sisters, the twin sisters, and I know. And if you live in Vancouver proper, you're looking at the sisters almost all day long. And I think that's a story that I've had to relearn again and again. You grow up as a settler kid, and they're called the Lions, and they represent British Dominion. And then you learn, oh, actually, there's these twin sisters, and they're actually a part of the Squamish Nation. And it's not actually time immemorial. It's actually a historical peace treaty between the Haida Nations and the Squamish Nations, and an arranged marriage where these sisters spread peace between the North and the Squamish Nation down here, and it commemorates that peace between previously warring nations, right? We can erase that story, we can remove that story, we can call them the lions, or we can just try to live that every day and try to remember that story, or what we know of that story, or whatever our access is to that story. Yeah, so just because you asked.
Thank you both. That was really beautiful.
I think it's important to add
Hmm.
that what we are talking about here is our larger bodies. I mean, we have our bodies, our personal bodies, but there's this larger body of our connection with everything that's around us. Sasen, I am poor. I am poor. I am poor unless you, Tango, merciful and teaching land, have mercy on me. So the larger body is you in your place, acknowledged as your place, with you humble before that place because the place finishes you and completes you, and and gives you wealth. I remember this time Kevin and I were out picking stinging nettles. You'd think, well, why would anyone want to pick stinging nettles? They're really, really good. You have to blanch them, and they're high in iron. And so it was just around this time that you picked them, maybe a little bit earlier, and we drove by this uh, large leaf maple. Uh, uh, and it was in flower, and he just said, look at all that food. Look at that food. So yeah, looked after and cared for, not just in uh, food, but cared for it in other ways. Just say at, I've been told, really, really, really likes us. Really likes us. Just say at. In English, these are Douglas fir, but really likes us. Yeah. So, anyone else want to come in on this?
Again, also thank you, Tim, and everyone. Yeah, I wonderfully resonated with what I didn't know this was happening today because I didn't look ahead. I would have read your whole book before we came today. But I love the chapter for sure. Even as you were speaking, I am beginning my journey and I've just now been learning the names of plants in English. So it's a place to start. But last year was the first year that I tasted big leaf maple buds. And a couple years ago, did Douglas fir buds in May. And as you spoke, it's just that, like, I just want to cry right now. It's just that beauty and richness. Yeah. Okay, I'll just hang up and cry now. But the connection of all of this, and now where we can be open to live our lives to this connection, and where it can lead all of us in steps of hope and wonder in times when it's so easy to be overwhelmed and want to fall on the floor to do nothing instead of walk forward with each other together. So anyway, I was feeling full, so I had to say something. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about Lectio now. I mean, our question, the question that we started with is how to be in this time. And we said we said, I've lost the image for the group somehow. I don't know if that can be restored.
Sorry, sorry, Tim. We're just
I think it's just the video icon is off.
Oh, the video icon.
Yeah, that's all. The camera itself is off. There's no. Oh yeah, there's no.
Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. So how to develop, how to develop this second self? In the Cree story, the self of protocols, the fasting, the contemplative self. One of the assists is through Lectio Divina, which I've said before, is a certain form of reading. So, like, we read all the time. You guys are university master students, grad students, so you're reading. Your life is reading, and my life is reading too, because I am panic struck. I know that I'm in trouble, deeply in trouble, and I have to find a way out. And I have turned to reading, but I don't read for information. I read to be altered. I read to be, I read to encounter a piercing phrase. Uh, I I read to be spoken by a text. All of you have had this experience. All of you have had this experience. This is the experience of Lectio Divina. And it has that kind of reading. It is precious, but in a normal, at least at the University of Victoria, and I'm not dissing the University of Victoria. The purpose of reading is exclusively for understanding, analysis, critique. Okay, that's true. That's true. These things are important activities, epistemological activities. But there is another way to read. And the way of Lectio Divina or Lectio or reading essayistically or what does Martha Nussbaum call it? Reading, yeah, I can't remember what Nussbaum calls it. Reading against the institution, as it's described in this slow reading movement. Yeah, this is precious reading. I encourage everyone to begin a Lectio book. At a certain point, you might want to set the book aside, but to get started, like just make notes, quotations of things that have struck you, pierced you, stopped you in your tracks, or named something in you that you hadn't been able to name, but that you were somewhat familiar with. Ah, that's what you are. Lectio. In the academy, typically this kind of reading is just far too subjective and has no place, and it's denigrated, frankly, and it's stifled, it's policed, but it is toweringly important reading in order to develop this interior self. And the development of the interior self is not just an individual act, it is a political act. A political act. This new self becomes a political actor and becomes curious about how to name where they stand. I want to go further on the Lectio idea, and I want to talk about group Lectio. The group that I'm involved in has taken up a reading of various texts The one we're on now, that we have been on, I would say, for almost a year, is Simone Weil's Waiting on God, her last essays and her last letters. And so we read through that. Yesterday, we managed to read two paragraphs because we always stop the reading if we encounter one of these piercing phrases and we talk about it and someone else will say something. There, 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 there are two forms of conversation. One is heuristic, logical, ambitious, wants to win, and theurgic, uh, which is theurgy means turning the soul around, what Socrates calls turning the soul around in the Republic, turning the soul around, contemplative listening. Again, in all my time in the academy, heuristic conversation has been, oh, top and center. This is where names are made. Hey, this is where you get promotion. But really just set that aside. I mean, learn to perform in that world, but the other world, the other world is theurgic, is transformative, and I would say the heuristic world of conversation is impotent politically, but the other one, oh, it's powerful. It's powerful. If you feel your eros for a place, you're going to be out in the streets. You're not going to be building dams or, digging up the uranium. You're going to be engaged in care. Um, Stay on the heuristic side. Yeah, you could be digging up some uranium. Uh, anyway, okay, enough of that. Yeah, yeah, I would say, how about if we do an exercise? Okay, so I want you to get a blank piece of paper and uh, I'm going to take you through another Statio moment because we're going to shift a bit. Yeah, I would like you to think about a place where you feel safe and you feel seen. Uh, it could be a place that you're in now, or it could be a place back in your childhood. Um, so if we could just take a pause now, I'd like you to visualize that place. Okay, now I want you to pick up your pen and just let fall on the page that place. Just describe it. You don't even have to form sentences. It's just so I'm going to do this too. Pick up my piece of paper. Just Okay, just stop where you are and go back on what you've written. Take another look. See if you want to add anything or yeah. So what did you get? Tell me some of you about your places.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sabi. Thank you so much for this. I needed this. I went back to my childhood.
Hmm.
It's really, can I just read what I wrote?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's good.
Okay. I said, the open veranda of my childhood home, the open courtyard with the lower parts all laid in order, blooming with a hand pump to the side of the house, a house sitting in the middle of the two surrounding houses, in the middle like a sandwich filling, protected by walls, filled with family's love, warmth, and non judgment. Home where mom is, no judgment, happiness, laughter, free to act, free to dance, free to speak, or just to be you with all of the surroundings, uh, whether they're objects or human beings. A safe space to be, the childhood home. Yeah, so I just went back to my home where I grew up. I think obviously, you are safe where you go because how you behave. But I think this was the last space in my life that I felt that was safe for me as an individual, where I didn't have to like justify or explain myself ever. So I think this is the thank you. This is what came up for me.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
sharing that.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is James. Well, I guess everybody's thanking Tim, so I'll thank Tim as well. Feel awkward if I don't say thank you now, right? Um, so mine's quite short. I just wrote it in words and bursts. I wrote rainfall, blanket, TV, snacks, both savory and sweet, horror, comedy, tragedy, hours fly by, and then that's where I stopped. And then you asked us to revisit, and I added at the end an emptiness. It's like, I think safety is a state of mind for me. Yes, the place is definitely like involved, but there are times where in that exact place, I don't feel safe, or I'm kind of plagued by something in the back of my mind. Like you're watching a comedy movie, you're watching stand-up comedy, but then there's this thing, and you don't feel completely safe. And there are often times where you do feel completely safe. Like I could not want anything more or better than this. And I've kind of taught myself to enjoy those moments rather than fixate on something that's been bothering me or whatever. So the place itself is kind of weird, that position on my couch with the blanket and like, you know, popcorn and chocolates and all that. And then it's kind of weird how both like that exact same image is both safe and not safe at the same time, like depending on whatever's going on. So yeah, it was like when you asked me to revisit it, I was like, well, is this actually safe all the time? And like, am I always in that moment of gratitude? But yeah, no, it's sometimes that moment is a distraction, And sometimes that moment is like I'm really present and I'm really appreciating that moment. And I go back and forth. So yeah, that was my place of safety.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, I, am going to read mine. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? The explosion of wonder in the morning yard, in the dark before hummingbirds. You know, hummingbirds sleep in a little bit. They're not the first birds awake. Uh, in the dark before hummingbirds. The dawn chorus, the grass, the cliff, the dead oak, the lawn chairs, the ferns, bluebells, the stone, the reaching up the mountain. Anyone else want to jump in?
Hello. Hi. Was really fascinating for me that there was this wonderful flow between the not only from interior to exterior, but from interior space to exterior space. So what I caught myself writing, and it's interesting how the mind creeps up on you as you write, even though you let the writing flow. I wrote 4 walls, wool, warmth, and scent, walking toward a hilltop grown with roots, moss, and grass, trees standing tall, lifting the spirit, holding grief and sorrow so that I can breathe. I walk with attentiveness, 1 foot in front of the other, softness supporting my body, and with every moment I am humbled.
Mm-hmm.
And I find something very deep, profoundly humbling when you feel safe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's this old story, old Greek story. It goes back to maybe the beginning of time, a very early time. And the story is that we weren't always bipeds. Like we initially were spheres and made up of male and female, or sometimes female and female, or male and male uh, parts. And we were quite beautiful. If we got excited, we would spin like this. And but anyway, we got hubristic. You know, we thought we'd take on the gods and just kind of abolish them and run the show. And the gods cottoned on to this and had us severed. And this was horrific. And talk about loneliness, existential loneliness. So we miss the other part of ourselves, and this is the origin of love. This is where desire comes from. So Aristophanes told that story in Plato's Symposium. But I think it's a good story, and because it explains what desire feels like. I would say for me, the primary eros is ontological eros. I feel disconnected, severed from my place, severed from the place I sit in, the place I walk in, the place I live in. I'm separated from it. Weird. Um, yeah, and how to get back, if it's possible. I have a hunch, however, that if we do manage to get back, we will be welcomed. Yeah. Okay, well, keep your descriptions of your good place in your notes. This is a sign of love, really. Uh, I do think we have an impetus, our dams and mining uranium, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, notwithstanding. I do think that we have an impetus to love where we are. Um, just a couple of last things from me. Um, uh, One thing we have talked about, but I just want to underscore it. Um, I would encourage everyone to try to find the indigenous names for places and things in those places, cliffs, um, uh, plants, etc. Um, excellent book, Saanich Ethnobotany by Nancy Turner and by Williams and Elsie Claxton. This is a true book. I don't know if there are other, I suspect there aren't other ethnobotanies around, but there might be. Get your hands on something like that. You will know that various peoples, various indigenous nations have been involved in language reclamation. Um, this is a very private undertaking, like private to the particular community, but sometimes an opening will be made for others to come in and you can learn. There was a time in Saanich a few years back where they were offering classes at this high school in Brentwood Bay. Um, yeah, it's a very liberating undertaking, and it's courteous. It's courteous. What if you lived with someone for many years and you didn't know their name? Yeah. So I think part of legitimate and feeding attention is courtesy. I also think that jumping around here, I also think that the root of activism, and we will be called on in the future to be more atavistic, to be more engaged in activism, is a contemplative self, a contemplative root. If any of you have been involved in dissidence, you know how the commitment to that can wilt and you can burn out. But if you have this this other self inside, this other sensorium inside, the contemplative sensorium, where you delectate, you savor what you see, you savor what has spirit. This will be helpful. And lastly, I would encourage everyone to listen to prophets. Now, prophetology or prophets it can be tricky, you know. There can be there can be people who are not quite ready, or maybe you shouldn't be listening to them. But yeah, I think all of us have a kind of discernment power to distinguish what is genuine from what isn't. Listen to the genuine ones. Do you have any questions for me about anything at all? Otherwise, this is the threat. I might read a poem.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that, I mean, I'm excited to hear your poem, Tim. And I had one question. I mean, I asked you right before. Is there? I always ask you, what are you currently working on? What are you currently grappling with? You said your writing has changed a little bit, or the direction of your writing and the feeling of your writing has changed in the last 6 months. Would you mind saying anything about that to the group, just briefly, if you want to?
Writing has become more raw, and I'm less interested in style, and I'm challenging myself to be almost brutally honest. Um, and I don't know how that's going to play out poetically on the page. Um, one of the things I'm interested in is in prophecy. I've been working for the last number of years with a dance company, New Dance Horizons in Regina. So I've been working with people. If you know New Dance Horizons, you know that there are two geniuses at the helm of it, Edward Poitras and Robin Poitras. And in December, Robin, um, Robin, I was out there for a premiere for this dance film that they've set up and made. Robin took me aside and she said, I want to start the Cassandra project. You've all heard of Cassandra. She is the person who has prophecy. She's one of the daughters of Priam, the king of Troy. So she can see the future and she reports on it, but no one believes her. No one believes her at all. So Robin said, I want a Cassandra for the time of climate change. I want her to be ancient, but I also want her to be contemporary. And it was on the basis of this poem that she wanted me to write a long poem. It was on the basis of this poem that she choreographed a dance for a young dancer from Winnipeg. And I think that dance is premiered and I understand it's traveling. I think it's going to Thunder Bay and anyway, I don't know where the dance stands now, but the last time I saw the dance, last video I saw of the dance, it was to text only, and Robin read this text. So this is Cassandra speaking, and the poem is called "Oracles in a Trance." Pods of flames leap the highway, zigzag, back and forth, sawing, alive, burning, acrobatic fish. She has seen it. Cassandra vibrates in Apollo's fist, twists in Agamemnon's gaze vice. Sudden muscled rivers shoot through roadbeds at all angles. Her snake-licked eyes take in burning cornfields through which the shaking, towering, tilting, squealing horse passes, waddling into the gobbling city. And from it pours fierce, bright with virtue people, swollen, sword flash of foreheads, who have discovered how simple death threats are to make. She said they were coming, philosophy stripped like a willow wand, reason sent on a 4-month Mexican holiday. You can be picked up at any time. Imagine, she says, the lip of time. We live on the eroded cliff. The towies know this, the oaks, the cliff. Agamemnon, Achilles roll in their beds. They'll bet on oil princes, dozens of armies rattling by, their own unretrievable strides into full night. There is void black at their nose tips, propeller roar around them. I consented marriage to Locius Apollo, then thought better of it. Can you imagine the labor of being the spouse of a god? He tore light from my mouth. I will not be heard. I disfigured by unbelievability. I hire and hire and hire women to perform lamentation, camping out on mountains, casting themselves into the sea, black shawls floating from them. In ancient liturgies, early Neolithic, Sibyls, the Vatic Pythia, Delphi, pulse of movement, holding back the door thump of disaster. These women, clothed in crows, gathered themselves into the sea, experts in seasoned weeping. More and more and more incoherent, signal failing, they bunch in the sea. Have you ever been not believed? If you can speak, you have been not believed. I saw the Greeks, the Achaeans, shooting along the inner walls of Troy like silverfish. I saw the pike of Achilles swim above my older brother's eye before their boats smacked the beach. The permafrost liquefies in the dark north, and countless lifetimes of carbon hit the air. Our Lady of Guadalupe, hear us. That's it. Goes on, but that's it. The dance is it's 11 minutes, and yeah, I can't remember the name of the dancer, but yeah. Okay.
Wow, thank you so much, Tim. No, such a lovely reading. So a lot to take in there. I'll pass it to Charles. Oh yeah, just do you have a minute or two for quick questions from the group?
Oh yeah, sure.
Good.
Yep, no
Okay,
problem.
yeah. Anyone at all, please feel free to jump in. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Lisa. Thank you very much. When I was reading your chapter, I was taken by the section where you talked about writing in secret. And I was wondering what you do with your secret writing.
I let it simmer in the pot.
Do you burn it? Do you?
No, yeah, I have a real difficulty detaching myself from physical things, and um, I keep it with me. I mean, sometimes it'll only stay as a raw journal note, but other times it will be a kind of a bud or something that just flowers eventually. Um, I keep it. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Here's Charles.
Tim, when you were talking about prophecy, I couldn't help but think of Simon and Garfunkel's, The Sound of Silence and the voices of the prophets speaking from the subway walls and tenement halls. So that just leaped out at me that, the prophets are everywhere. I also wonder about the prophecy and the prophets in the world around us. Your colleague, John Burroughs, the legal scholar at UVic, Anishinaabe scholar, who, when he gave a talk here at one of our ceremonies organized by Vicki Kelly, one of the members of our faculty, it was a series of symposiums on a return to the teachings. And in his talk at this blanketing ceremony, he said, quite prophetically, the law comes from the land.
Yeah.
And I just find that utterly profound. And we chatted afterward, and I said, that sounds very similar to the Hindu and Buddhist concept of dharma. And he said, that's it. Dharma, the universal cosmic laws, they come from the land, and the land is everything. So I wondered if you have any comments about prophecy coming from the land and from the world around us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the land knows we're in trouble, deep trouble, and possibly end time trouble. Noah, the story of Noah like trouble, where one form of life is simply it's extinguished. It's done. It's done. It's hit the wall. And I think the Noah boat now is the land. It's this cliff right behind me. It's robins, it's hummingbirds, it's deer, it's grass, that what is being attacked, what is being lost, it is the only reliable home at this point. Another thing about what John Burroughs was talking about, this retrieval and what's going on in Wasanich territory, retrieval of stories, of language. I think it's not good for us to do nothing in response to that, or while that is going on. I think folks coming from other cultures need to do their retrieval of their culture. We, in fact, diasporic, in my case, diasporic European, we have a usable culture. We have a long sapiential tradition. Going back to Aristophanes' crazy story about the origin of desire. Reinvestigate, bring it back, retrieval. Yeah, return to the source. Return to the source. All of us have that at our disposal, and we have buildings that are filled with elders. They're called libraries, and we can go back and we can see. We weren't always as destructive as we are now. Contemplation brought a break, but brought a yeah. No, I think our future is a contemplative future, and I think actually we're on the porch of a great contemplative age. Not everyone will join in; it's everyone's choice, but there is this possibility.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. And I'll just say to people who haven't read Numinous Seditions that what you're speaking to kind of really defines your method in the book of retrieving and preserving fragments of wisdom in line with Damascius, the last headmaster of Plato's Academy, towards the end of Plato's Academy. And yeah, so this is just a lovely, evocation of what methods can we grab onto here, and what practices can we grab onto, and I just want to encourage everyone to look at that book and yeah, what does it mean to retrieve fragments, pieces sometimes, and I think a story is, like learning a story, you learn the story in pieces. You learn about yourself also in pieces. So I just want to speak to that method, which really defines this work, Numinous Seditions. Yeah. So thank you. And here's.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, Cary, along with that, when you talk, Tim, about returning to source, it made me think of the Tao Te Ching. I'm looking at Anna here, who's a scholar of this Asian tradition, and chapter 16 in the Tao Te Ching is all about returning to source, the source being the Tao. So the contemplative traditions of East and West have this theme of returning to source.
True. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for your attention and your time, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you.
And that's okay, Tim. I was just going to also say a goodbye. I'm guessing maybe for many of us, but and I'm sorry, Celeste, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Everything, again, I cannot say enough how much it just keeps resonating. And Tim, I will walk away with the porch of a contemplative age. I just was very excited by those words because, well, as many of us here, we were part of a symposium last year, which had a very long title that I don't remember, with the idea that the best response to every problem we have right now is interior contemplative practices, and the only where change will truly come from that will affect everywhere we go. So I'm just being effusive here to say, you're fantastic, and thank you for spending the day with us, because we appreciate your words.
In the Sanchatan, people would say, Haishkwa, Haishkwa. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
Good.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for bringing Tim in, Cary. And I love the connection from years back, Charles, when you were in the embodiment class and I used Tim as one of the textbooks. So, I mean, I didn't use Tim. I used one of his books. You know what I mean, right?
A living textbook. Yeah, get him in.
Yeah, living. You're onto the living textbook. That's right. All right. Lovely to see you all. Enjoy your day. Thanks for inviting me.
Anytime.
Yeah. I miss you all. Bye.
Who's Thomas?
Tom's my private collaborator. You get your
Hi, Tom.
Yo,
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Dad's home, he's fan.
Playing so cute. Holler.
I think it's possible.
Okay. Okay. Should we need to chat with him?
Unless maybe Orchid's last. I saw a little message.
He said yes, thanks so much.
Okay. Ask him if he wants to say something.
Yeah.
Thomas, you can address the group if you like. Can you hear us?
Thomas, we're dying to get to
You've been requested to say something to the group. If you're still there, Thomas, you can catch us tonight. We're performing, Thomas and I, Saturday night, tonight. Yeah. Boombox, West 4th. Yeah. So there he is.
Hello.
barely got him. You just got a glimpse.
No, hi everybody. You guys were very quiet. I could barely hear you for a moment there when you were trying to acknowledge me, and I appreciate it. No, it's just wonderful to listen in and catch this beautiful meeting of the mind and Tim, and thanks, Cary, for bringing me in here. I don't know if I have anything particular to say, but thank you, everyone, for putting this together.
What are you gonna be playing tonight?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, we heard you're gonna be headlining a show.
Oh, we're the opening act. Cary and I, we're playing together.
Dual guitars.
Cary's music. Yeah, I'm in support of Cary here.
Very
tonight.
supportive, Thomas. But thank you, Thomas. Glad you can make it. Yeah.